Hey guys, this is Jess from Curse, and I've got Al from Creative Assembly here with me. He's going to talk to me a little bit about the upcoming turn-based strategy, Total War Rome 2. So the first thing I noticed in the presentation is that you kept talking about how big and massive and rich the game was compared with Shogun 2 or any of the other Total War games. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So Rome 2 really is the geographically the biggest Total War game I've ever made. I mean, it stretches right over from like the coast of Spain and Portugal right over to Afghanistan. I think the northernmost point is the tip of Scotland, and it goes right down to the campaign map goes right down to like the Horn of Africa. So it's, you know, in terms of scope and scale, it's 4 times the size of Shogun 2's map, and also, you know, along with that comes great variety, great cultural difference in terms of architecture between the different cultures, the different kind of units you can recruit and the mercenaries you can recruit in different parts of the world vary wildly. You know, they're completely different sort of cultural feel to every faction that you play. So yeah, it's about variety and scope and scale, but lots of detail as well. You know, rich detail and deep experience. So, you know, a lot of kind of feature changes in the game as well. So,
could you go into some of those feature changes, because you showed off very slightly the naval features and how you can ram ships and things like that. Are there any other cool things you can do with that?
Yeah. So on the naval side, at least, you know, ramming's a big focus and boarding is a big focus. We've changed the naval system quite radically. So the naval battles now play a lot more like land battles. They're a lot more mobile, and they're a lot more about kind of flanking maneuvers and outmaneuvering your enemy and doing sort of side attacks, the sort of flank attacks you might do in a land battle, for example. And that's kind of supported with the sheer range and variety of ships of the ancient world that we've got in there as well. So there's big differences between, you know, just like the land armies and the battles you'll play there. There's big differences in the kind of naval units that you can recruit. So you have your 2 kind of core different cultural types. You've got your Mediterranean, sort of Egyptian and Greek and Roman sort of triremes and biremes. Those kind of really fast, light, hard-hitting ramming ships. With, you know, and some of them have sort of mounted weapons on them, like ballistas and catapults. You go right over north to Europe, and you look at the kind of barbarian cultures up there, sort of, you know, the Brits and the Germans and the Gauls. You know, their ships are very different. They're made of heavy oak rather than the kind of light Mediterranean wood. So they're big, slow, ponderous, really high hit points. You know, really slow moving, but they're kind of peopled with, you know, hardcore warriors with double-handed swords and things like that. So, you know, the kind of variety you'll find, the experience you'll find playing different cultures in naval battles is great, just like it is with land battles. Yeah.
And going along with some of the enhanced features, I heard you mention the enhanced AI. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that comes into play with all this?
Yeah, so again with Rome 2, just like previous Total War games, diplomacy is a big feature. You know, this is you sort of dealing with the other factions and setting up trade agreements or declaring war, you know, or anything in between, you know, setting up all sorts of different shades of alliance with all the other factions on the campaign map. So, but one thing we've taught the AI to do is reason more deeply about the other factions on the map around it. So it looks further out. It looks further out at relationships rather than just looking at you and kind of reacting to what you've done in the world, like, you know, oh, you've attacked me, so therefore I'm going to declare war on you and attack you back. You know, it'll go and look at what your friends are doing. It'll go and look at what its friends and its opponents are doing. You know, and make a more kind of a more accurate value judgment, sort of based on that. But another thing we're doing with diplomacy as well, we're giving the player a lot more transparency into the AI's kind of decision-making process. So we have a new panel in the diplomacy interface where you can literally see a kind of list of your actions by which the AI is judging you. So it'll look at you know, the way you've been conducting yourself in the world around you, you know, whether you've been kind of attacking other nations or you know, taking slaves once you've conquered a city to bolster your own kind of slave population, and you know, you can really see at a glance, you know, how that AI is feeling about you, and you can make a call on whether you think, you know, diplomacy is going to work with that AI, or if an AI just comes and attacks you, you can look at the diplomacy panel and go, oh, that's why. You know, you can see the reasons why it's angry with you. So yeah, there's a lot more depth and a lot more transparency in diplomacy. So. Yeah.
So if a new player came to the series and had never played any of the Total War games before, would you recommend they begin with Total War Rome 2, or should they begin with maybe the first one or another game?
So I would say begin with Rome 2 because one of the things we have in Rome 2, which we haven't had before. We've had tutorials before, but what we have is right at the start of the game, when you first install and fire up the game, you can play something called the prologue, which is kind of self-contained, narrative-driven mini-campaign where you play as a fictional general called Silanus, and you essentially play through a tutorial, and what it does, it slowly introduces you to all the features of the game, and then it kind of widens out and lets you kind of go sandbox at the end and start playing, building your own armies and sending them around, and but it ends fairly soon. It's about 2 to 3 hours long, but it introduces you to all the kind of key features of Total War, so it kind of demystifies any kind of thoughts of complication that you might have, and then it just kind of primes you to go ahead and play a full campaign game. So I think it's the perfect place to start.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Once again, this is Jess from Curse. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the game.